Live from San Francisco on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, you are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
You know who's nice? Molly Holly. I really miss Molly Holly today. Wrestling Observer Live Sunday. Bryan and Mike are not here. I'm Jim Valley, and we are live. 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. You can dial up right now. We can talk about anything, including Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard challenging for the Impact World Championship tonight at the pay-per-view Hard to Kill. And what was supposed to be a big night for her career has turned out to be something completely different. She skipped out on meeting with the press today after fallout of allegations of bullying and racism from women from virtually every wrestling company, every major wrestling company in the country. People like Chelsea Green, Allison Kay, Priscilla Kelly, Tania Brooks, so many others. And I don't know. You know, I asked Dave about this. Initially, I was like, it's wrestling. I mean, these are all very serious things, but it's also wrestling. Dave's like, no, these are all real. But Tessa has not apparently had any real interpersonal problems in quite a while. But she's got herself at least a PR problem today. We will see what happens. But as far as I know, she is challenging tonight for the Impact World Championship on pay-per-view. You can get it on traditional pay-per-view or also on the Fight TV app. We will run down all of that pay-per-view. We'll talk about the Tessa controversy and a lot of other things. Guess what? WWE's heading back to Saudi Arabia. Also, NXT UK was today. Lots of stuff. And two very tragic passings. One legend of Lucha Libre and another of Japanese wrestling, who made his name in the United States and North America. We'll do that. We'll take your calls, and you can also tweet me at Jim Valley. Wrestling Observer Live. We're live here on Sunday on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
I believe Mike is watching football. Bryan, I think, is scouring every Walgreens in the Northwest to buy more 70% off Olaf dolls for his daughter. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, and I'm in Seattle, and we're all part-time fans. Don't let anyone tell you different. We're all bandwagon here in the Northwest, and that's a shoot, brother. 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. We can talk about a ton of stuff today. We can talk about Tessa Blanchard. We can talk about the Impact pay-per-view coming up tonight. There's also news. Mike Johnson, he is reporting that Marty Scurll has officially signed and is staying with Ring of Honor. And according to PW Insider, Scurll is now the lead booker for ROH. That means he replaces Delirious, Hunter Johnson, who's been booker for, I think, the 1950s. I think he's been booker a long, long time. Delirious will stay on in a creative capacity, however, with the company. That's big news. That's really big news. I know a lot of people expected Scurll. They've seen him on Being the Elite. They expected that he'd go to AEW. Ring of Honor has got some money to spend on talent. And that's a pretty good buy, I think. I mean, think about it. I mean, yeah, you probably go, oh, AEW's better. Ring of Honor, come on, but he's getting more money. He's getting like WWE money and a lot less dates. And he's booker. So he's got power, he's got money, he's got a decent lifestyle and a great way to live. So it's a win for Marty Scurll. Don't forget, wrestling is a job. We'll take your calls, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Tweet me at Jim Valley, but let's go to the phones. Ryan, what's going on?
I have a question about the Impact pay-per-view tonight. If the intergender match between Tess and Sami Callihan catches on, do you see WWE maybe like booking a Brock Lesnar Ronda Rousey match, or say Nyla Rose against Chris Jericho in AEW? If not, what match do you see that the other promotions could book that would be a popular intergender wrestling match that would be believable?
Well, first of all, thank you for the call, Ryan. I appreciate it. Whatever happens tonight or in the future on Impact will have no bearing on AEW or WWE ever deciding to do intergender man-on-woman matches, competitive man-on-woman matches. That'll be up to the sponsors. That's the rub. If, I don't know, whatever sponsor, who sponsors WWE with their demos, with their 50-plus demos? Okay, I got it. If one of those companies that have bathtubs with a door in it, if the bathtub with the door company decides that they're fine with men and women in a competitive match situation, then there you go. It's all up to the sponsors. And right now, they just don't think it's good business. Maybe that'll change. Maybe it won't. But what happens tonight has no bearing, I don't think, on any decision WWE is going to do or any decision AEW is going to do. And I don't blame Impact. They've got to do something. You've got to have an image. You've got to have some sort of hook to get people's attention. It is a very competitive market. And, they don't have the most money. They don't have the biggest stars. They've done really well lately, though. I will say that. They've been kind of on a roll. They put in effort. They've got a lot of young talent. And there's some bright futures ahead, I think, for some of the people in Impact. I'm actually enjoying the show. And Johnny Swinger is my guilty pleasure. If you've never seen Impact, Johnny Swinger, the guy from WCW, but he looks completely different. And he plays this old, carny, burnout 1980s wrestler. Last night on the show, or the other night on the show, he was dropping tranquilizers into people's water as a joke. Like, he thought that was funny. And everybody else who's younger is like, yeah, that's assault, dude. And he's like, what? It's just funny, man. It's what we do. And he's so out of touch. It's a really funny character. And like I said, Johnny Swinger is my guilty pleasure. When Impact announced that he was coming back, I was like, okay. And this character is hilarious. He's like defecating in people's bags and just doing all kinds of stuff. So I love me some Johnny Swinger. What are your thoughts on Tessa Blanchard? So she skipped out on the press conference today. As far as I know, she's going to be on the pay-per-view and going to be at the main event. But she tweeted something out about women need to support each other. And wow. She got allegations of bullying and racism from people like Chelsea Green, Allison Kay, Priscilla Kelly, Renee Michelle, Shauna from AEW, and Impact Wrestling star Tania Brooks. So everybody was just putting her on blast today. And I know that in the past, there were apparently issues. And that was one of the reasons, apparently, she never got a big offer from a big company. But I hadn't heard any problems recently. But I don't know. Will that affect you? Will you go, yeah, no, I was going to buy the pay-per-view? Or let's say that she wraps up at Impact. And I don't know what he's thinking now, but in the past, Cody has mentioned Tessa Blanchard. Her dad is there in Impact, or in AEW. Would you judge AEW if they still signed, assuming they are, if they still signed Tessa Blanchard? What would Tessa Blanchard have to do to begin to regain your trust? 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529, or tweet me at Jim Valleys. We're live here on Sunday. Oh, here's a tweet, as a matter of fact, if sponsors didn't care about intergender wrestling, which match could you see happening in a major federation? Just because she's been on my mind lately, I could see Lacey Evans doing something. Maybe somebody's being like really weaselly. What's Rockstar Spud's new name? Dirk Maverick? Yeah, maybe he's like being all skeezy, and she or Dana Brooke, puts him in his place. I could see that happening. That might work. Probably comedy in the beginning. You want to get the audience used to it. You don't want to just open up with, here's a hell in a cell, man versus woman. But who knows? And the person goes on to say maybe Marty Skrull, would be crazy enough to book something like this in Ring of Honor. I have no idea. I don't know Marty Skrull's booking style. I don't know his influences in regards to what he thinks a well-run, well-booked promotion is. But still, I can't believe... I got to find this out. How long has Delirious been the booker of Ring of Honor? He's been around a long, long time. Let's see. Hang on here. Looking it up. Let's see. Debuted in 2004. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, people wrote too much on this. I'll find out later. Not a big deal. Anyway, give me your thoughts on that. I know some people have thought that Ring of Honor has needed a change for a long time when it comes to creative. Is this the shot in the arm they need? A few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, Bryan and I had Joe Koff on, the CEO of Ring of Honor. And he seemed to think that Ring of Honor is in it for the long run, and that they have Sinclair's support, and that they are going forward. And maybe he's putting on a good face. And this was a while ago. But he seemed to think that they're in it to win it. And it's a marathon and not a sprint. And I hope this is a sign for things to come. And maybe this will be a good sign for Ring of Honor. It's a bad sign for Impact. We'll talk about that coming up next. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Wrestling Observer Live on Sunday. Jim Valley in for Mike and Bryan. 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. Couple of tweets here, Jim Valley. Jefferson says, I've enjoyed the various Kylie Ray and Chris Statlander intergender matches, but I've always wondered, why do people want them so bad? I don't know, maybe just they think that it's the next step. But you know what? It's not. In the 1970s, Vicki Williams, who was a pretty popular, pretty well-known woman wrestler, she did a gimmick in a bunch of territories where she would petition to get into the men's battle royal because that was the bigger money than the women's battle royal. And in Portland, look this up because this is amazing. I don't know how. But, by the way, honestly, if you're sensitive, do not look this up, but I'm not joking. Vicki Williams was talking about equality, and Roddy Piper was playing the pig, and he was like, get in the kitchen, all this stuff, and she was just getting in his face, and Roddy Piper grabbed her, in a working sense, because she's a wrestler, they worked it out, grabbed her by the hair and picked her up and was shaking her. And then later she got her revenge. She did lay Piper out later, but, they worked a program together. And I respect Piper. A lot of wrestlers, particularly that era, probably wouldn't have sold for a woman, but he did, and that's why he's Roddy Piper, because he's a legend. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Let's go to the phones. David, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Papa Bluff, Missouri.
Awesome. What do you got for me?
On the Marty Skrull thing, I figured after last night, whenever all this showed up at the end of the Ring of Honor show, I figured that was confirmation that Skrull was staying. But I've read something on one of the ROH forum boards that recently that Cody Rhodes and Marty Skrull had a falling out. So,
no idea. I couldn't even tell you. But, you never know if things like that play a role or people can do business. I mean, you have to understand, wrestling is wrestling, and whatever's going on with Tessa Blanchard, and no disrespect to anyone, because it's wrestling, I'm going to guess that at some point she's going to work a program with one of these women who are accusing her in real life right now. Not because they're bad people, because it's wrestling. 1-800-878-PLAY. Let's go to the phones. And Jason. Jason, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Windsor.
What's up? What do you got on your mind?
I hope you're feeling better there, Jim. I always enjoy your interviews with Pumi. I'm one thing with AEW. Like, I really enjoyed that. I was really looking forward to seeing Rio versus Chris Chandler last week. I was kind of disappointed, obviously, with the Nightmare thing. Do you think they would have a rematch, or do you think they're just going to give up between Rio and somebody else for their next pay-per-view? Thank you very much.
You bet. Rio and Chris Statlander did not have the best chemistry. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was just, it is what it is. But it sure seems like they're invested in Chris Statlander, and I would imagine we'll see more with them. It certainly seems like she's the choice, but are things shifting, and maybe heel Britt Baker is going to be the focus of the women's division now? Is she the fifth dentist? The one that doesn't recommend Trident now because she's a heel? Is that who she is? 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. Jim Valley in for Bryan and Mike. Wrestling Observer Live. Let's go to Tim in Miami. Tim, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Jim Valley? I like that theory, and I must apologize to you and your listeners. I'm similarly getting over a little bit of a cold over the new year. But you mentioned Impact Wrestling, you mentioned Ring of Honor, so I thought this was a good time to pick your brain on something that's kind of been tugging at me a little bit, which is that both Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor, they've been around for a while in various incarnations. They've had solid financial backing, yet neither has really gotten much traction in terms of being a viable number two on the domestic front. Yet here comes AEW, and before they've even run a show, they're selling 100,000 pay-per-views, they're selling out arenas, and they're getting a lucrative deal from TNT. I mean, what accounts for just the chasm and that difference of success among these three companies? Is it just Jericho? Is it Cody? Is it the Bucks? Is it people have more confidence in Tony Khan as an investor? I mean, what accounts for that just Grand Canyon of success in that regard?
If I were to boil it down to one thing, and thank you very much for the call, Tim, I appreciate it. If I were to boil it down to one thing, and there are a lot of factors that play into this, people identify with AEW. People didn't identify with TNA, with Dixie Carter. People didn't identify with the Main Event Mafia or bringing back Ric Flair or Mick Foley or whatever. The stuff happening, particularly before AEW formed, was now. People felt that it was a cause, and they were a part of it, as opposed to a product that they watched passively. Now, I think from what I've seen, I'm not Dave, but I believe the numbers are pretty much about the same as far as ratings go. But what AEW has done has been able to convert customers, get people to spend money. Nobody bought those TNA pay-per-views. They bought the one, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. What did they do that twice? They did 2 realistic builds. People bought it. And then back to Vince Russo booking for the next 10 years. Can you blame us? Those shows were terrible. And it was a mess. I'm literally now starting to get back into Impact, even though it's a completely different company. I'm sort of like New Japan in that way, I guess. But it's just, they have a passion. The fans buy in. They love Jericho or Cody or the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega or whomever. And maybe it's not as much of a cause as it used to be, but it's still there. and people are still spending money. And that's the difference. I think there's a connection that none of those other things had. And Ring of Honor, they're going to play a long game to earn our trust back. I'm willing to give them a shot, but not going to be anytime soon. And I hope it works out. I like the idea that Marty Scurll got more money, fewer dates, and he's got a position of power. Good for him. He won the game. Congratulations, Marty Scurll. You won wrestling. That's awesome. So don't root against any company. Let's all try to get them better. Let's get that tide to raise all the boats. And, Impact, it's not without its charms. They got their, Hard to Kill? What is that? I know it's like the company's Hard to Kill, so that's why they chose it, but really? Do we have to have a pay-per-view called the name of a movie that is likely on Cinemax right now? Pay-per-view tonight, Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards. Winner gets the Call Your Shot trophy, which I wonder if that's going to play a role with the whole Tessa controversy. Rob Van Dam and Brian Cage. When Rob Van Dam first turned heel, I was like, really? People love Rob Van Dam. But I got to say, this Rob Van Dam midlife crisis character, it's funny. I think it's where he's at right now. But no one else is doing that. I got to give Rob Van Dam credit. Sometimes he's, I think, a better wrestling mind than people care to admit. Moose taking on Rhino. And then from OWE, Madman Fulton taking on Ken Shamrock. And you know what? Ken Shamrock has had a really nice comeback this past year, or however long he's been back. He's shown a lot of depth, and he's not like the crazy guy that he was during the Attitude Era in WWE. He even did the Joey Ryan match, and you know what that means. And he did it really well. So check out Ken Shamrock before he retires for good, because he's doing some cool stuff, and it's cool that he's doing that. Knockouts Championship. Taya Valkyrie, Jordan Grace, ODB. ODB's back for a little while. Jordan Grace has kind of been the babyface chasing Taya Valkyrie. Rich Swann and Willie Mack are scheduled to face the North for the Tag Team Championships, but apparently Rich Swann suffered a sprained ankle at an event this weekend. Impact has been very vague in the tweet, so we don't know what's going on with that match. Also, Ethan Page, I guess, got some salmonella, so he may not be in the show either. Ace Austin versus Trey for the X Championship. And then Sami Callihan, who's, I think, is doing a really good job. And I would encourage him to stay right now with Impact and get some more time as a top guy, even in a small pond, under his belt. And just stay there for a while. He's in no hurry. But it's Sami Callihan, the champion, defending against Tessa Blanchard. And I don't know if you're watching, but one of the things that's cool is that Sami Callihan has reiterated time and again, this isn't a man versus woman match. He's not playing Bobby Riggs or Andy Kaufman or saying get in the kitchen or any of that stuff. Matter of fact, he says that he grew up poor and Tessa Blanchard had a silver spoon in her mouth. I should rephrase that. But that's the angle they're taking, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I would just go with it, to be honest. What do they have to lose? It's going to be an interesting show, but I wouldn't pull her off the pay-per-view. Does that make me a bad person? Well, it makes me a bad person if I was in pro wrestling. But I'm kidding. Just do the match. Get it over with. They can do something at the end. Tessa Blanchard could win, and then whoever won the Call Your Shot trophy could come out, and boom, we're off to the races again. Your thoughts, 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. California knows how to party. It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
You You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Jim Valley in for Bryan and Mike. I just got the greatest tweet of all time. The family of Pampero Firpo, who just passed away at the age of 89, tweeted at Dave Meltzer and myself and said, "Thanks a million for your thoughtful and accurate discussion of my dad, Pampero Firpo. I listened to it 2 times and learned something new about my dad and Roddy Piper in L.A." Wow. As I mentioned, I'm Jim Valley, and I do Saturdays on Sports Byline with Wrestling Observer Live. So you can hear my Saturday shows. Every Saturday we're live, and we do it each and every Saturday from 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, and it's always live, just like this. So please call next Saturday, and I think they're doing a replay of one of my Saturday shows after this live show. So check that out as well if this is your first time checking me out, and follow me on Twitter at Jim Valley. Let's go to the phones, 1-800-878-PLAY. Let's go to Daryl. Daryl, are you Hiromu Takahashi's cat?
I wish. I would probably have a better life than he did.
Thank you for getting the joke. What's up, Daryl?
3 things I want to try and get out real quickly. First, my dream intergender match will be Asuka versus anyone of the Undisputed Era.
Asuka against anybody is awesome, but yeah, that's great.
Second thing, rest in peace to La Parka. I remember when he first took on that role, it was around the time I started religiously watching AAA on Galavision. And I remember thinking, hopefully he does well because he's kind of put it in a bad position. And he did until, I guess, LA Park came back and kind of stole a little bit of that thunder. But he did well, and it's really tragic the way he went out. And my condolences to him and his family. The third thing is you mentioned the history of Impact and TNA. Like, if you really, really, really think about it, it is amazing the number of times they've shot themselves in the foot until they ran out of feet and then shot other people's feet. From the Russo booking to Billy Corgan and other things Dixie did, and then with Jeff Jarrett and the messy divorce they had with Matt Hardy, and now this, when it's amazing. I was very tempted to buy that pay-per-view, but no, not anymore.
All right, Daryl, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Love your comments on the second La Parka. Not to be confused with L.A. Park. The wrestler who was in WCW is still alive. We're talking about the AAA version of La Parka, and he just died doing a very simple dive. And think about that for a second. I know that we love exciting moves and dives and falls and new exciting things to see, but wrestling is dangerous, even if it seems like they're doing nothing. Remember Hector Garza? He died on a very simple maneuver. It doesn't necessarily matter about the complications, but understand that, yes, it is scripted. Yes, it can be choreographed, but you must respect it. And it can be very dangerous and deadly at times. Real quick before we go to the phones, I also want to acknowledge the passing of Kazuo Sakurada, better known in the United States and Canada as Kendo Nagasaki, the Japanese wrestler. The British wrestler, Kendo Nagasaki, the original British wrestler, he's still alive. But Mr. Sakurada died recently at the age of 71 after his pacemaker stopped. I remember him in Florida fighting Dusty Rhodes and Billy Jack, and he actually came up to Portland for a while in 1985. And at the Don Owen Memorial Show in 1985, he fought Sergeant Slaughter on that show. So Kendo Nagasaki, a great, great heel from the 1980s. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Rob in Miami. Rob, what's going on?
Hey, Jim, how's it going? Funny enough, I had to call when I heard you mention Bobby Riggs. That's actually my grandfather, but I'm a big fan,
Oh,
and
my gosh.
yeah, I thought that would be a good time for me to chime in. But, Jim Ross did tell me when I met him that he thought that angle drew money in the 70s. So maybe Impact can do something with that. But I'd really like to get your thoughts. I'm a listener to the Pacific Rim. What do you think Jushin Thunder Liger's role with New Japan is going to be going forward now that he's formally retired? Do you think they're going to keep him as a personality, or do you think he'll continue to do behind-the-scenes work, or just really what are your thoughts on that?
I think he's going to do what he's been doing for a very long time. He's a gym rat. He lives in the dojo. He doesn't live in Tokyo. He's got a house in the South, and when he comes into town, he stays at the dojo, and he eats the chanko at the dojo, and he's going to be essentially still a trainer, still a positive force there. He's going to stay in shape, and he's just going to keep doing what he does. That's who he is, and I don't think it's going to change. So they love him. He's going to stick around forever, and I think he'll probably teach conditioning, wrestling, and probably be a good role model for people to develop those good dojo gym habits that he's had like pretty much his entire life.
Completely agree. Hey, thanks so much for taking the call.
Hey, real quick, Rob, did you like the movie?
Yeah.
The Bobby Riggs movie? Was it good?
Well, I'll tell you, my father did consult on it. He was not a fan, but I thought they did a good job telling the story. They did kind of make Bobby come off more likable than in previous movies. So yeah, I thought Steve Carell knocked it out of the park as far as it was watching my grandfather again on screen. So yes, very much.
He's not a wrestler, but he's one of the greatest heels of all time.
Thank you. I'll pass that message to the family.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean that with a sincere compliment. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. Okay, so I get a very nice tweet from the family of Pampero Firpo, and then Bobby Riggs' grandson. I'm having the weirdest day. It's Jim Valley. You can tweet me at Jim Valley. And let's go to some Twitter messages. Eric says he watched the NXT UK Takeover show. People should go out of their way to watch the Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin match. Those two should be at least on NXT every week. And the three-way women's match was excellent, and it kind of felt like a Stardom match. Well, do you know why it felt like a Stardom match? Because Toni Storm is a former Stardom champion, and Piper Niven did a few tours, I believe, with Stardom under her other name as Viper. So, yeah, they've got a lot of Stardom experience. So, yeah, no, I'm not surprised that it felt like a Stardom match. I haven't seen it yet, but, yeah, not surprised at all that. I am kind of surprised about Toni Storm. You kind of think she'd be on a faster track. Who knows what's going to happen there? And Piper Niven, she had a Bell's palsy attack. So I'm glad she's back in the ring. Hope she does well. She's very talented. And I could see her being a hero, maybe sort of like a Beth Phoenix for pretty girls with different body types. She's cool. Piper Niven is a cool chick, and I hope she does well in WWE. Couple of things from NXT UK. End of the match, end of the show. Walter retained the United Kingdom Championship, and Imperium is celebrating in the ring. The Undisputed Era slides in and attacks all of them. They take out Walter, and they're doing their pose to end the show. So it looks like there's going to be a big match coming up for, what are they calling it? Worlds Collide during Royal Rumble weekend. So they're going to probably have some kind of faction match. Also, NXT Women's Championship match. Speaking of Toni Storm, she's going to challenge Rhea Ripley, and then Finn Balor taking on Dragunov. So those are what we know so far leading up to that and Royal Rumble weekend. Are you excited for Royal Rumble? I always love Royal Rumble. It's just fun. I don't analyze it. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. I don't go, hey, wait a second. Why is that cement mixer in the ring? It doesn't even bother me. I just watch it and have a great time. The Royal Rumble for me invariably the most fun of the year. What about you? 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Sorry about that. I still have my cold. I was in Tokyo. Let me tell you a couple of Tokyo stories while we got some time. So, Dave's daughter came over. And you know Dave's son Cody, named after Cody Rhodes. And, you know, I'm not surprised, but Baby Doll Meltzer is very... No, it's not her name. Carly is her name, but so funny. We're walking back from Tokyo Dome the second night, and she's like, you know, Dad, I like the second night better. And Dave is like gently arguing with her, very nicely, and she's arguing back. 2 generations of Meltzers arguing over Tokyo Dome matches. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting. Adorable. A lot of fun at Totocon, the Japanese wrestling store, fight store. And Dave and I walked around with a video camera, and I taped Dave looking at autographs of George Hackenschmidt and albums by the Crush Girls and different wrestling magazines, probably about 10, 15 minutes, I think, of that. And then I also got audio and video of the Q&A that he did, and Fumi was there too. He helped out. I haven't looked at it yet, but hopefully I'll get it up for subscribers soon. So there is still some more content to come as soon as I get better. I'm a hurting unit, and I'm doing the best I can. So let me get some rest this week, and I will get all this stuff up. But I think we have got some really, really cool content coming your way, and I just tried to do some different things, and I hope you appreciate it. So if you are a subscriber to Wrestling Observer, I promise you, I got your back. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Jim Valley. You can tweet me at Jim Valley. Marty Scurll, staying with Ring of Honor. It makes sense. I mean, how big would Marty Scurll be in AEW, really? I mean, he's not going to be bigger than Jericho. He's not going to be bigger than Cody. It makes perfect sense. Make more money, less wear and tear on the body, and your booking. And who knows, maybe he gets a great track record for booking, and maybe other companies want him in the future, and when he's older and not wrestling, he's a creative force like a Pat Patterson or something. He's got all the cards right now. Congratulations to Marty Scurll. I hope they kind of reestablish Marty Scurll's relationship with PCO, and then somewhere down the line, we get the big breakup and the big mega feud between PCO and Marty Scurll. But give it some time. Let PCO be the champion. Let PCO be the inspirational George Foreman type character right now, and carry the brand, carry the championship, and see what happens down the road. Oh, by the way, guess what? The road to WrestleMania, it goes through Saudi Arabia. The next WWE pay-per-view event for Saudi Arabia, February 20th. Now, I don't really know if it's part of WrestleMania, but February 20th is right in the middle of WrestleMania season. I don't know if it's going to be another Crown Jewel. I don't know the name. I was thinking maybe something like WWE Upright and Locked Position, or WWE Absolutely Nothing Happened. It was totally fine, and we cannot wait to go back. No, really. Super excited. I don't know, that hashtag's a little long. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Jim Valley here. Repeat of my Saturday show coming up next here on Sports Byline. A couple of tweets. Someone says, I have friends who gave up on professional wrestling 10 years ago, but they come over to see the Royal Rumble every January, even though I have to explain all the new characters and storylines. I can imagine how that's going to go. Hey, that's Shorty G. He's, short. Oh, yeah, that's Bobby Lashley. He's sleeping with the wife of that. You know what? You should probably just go. Yeah, I'm just going to turn this off. This is disturbing. Another tweet. What does Impact have to do to get more eyes on them if wrestling fans refuse to watch? there's no shortcut. There's no secret. You're just going to have to be consistent. And it's going to take a lot of time. But consistency. Build up some trust. Build up confidence in your audience. And hopefully, by the time something could happen, a big angle, some change in media or the station you're on, maybe opportunity meets effort. And that's probably the best shot they have. Tweet me at Jim Valley, and also follow me on Saturdays. I'm here each and every Saturday on Wrestling Observer Live, and that's every Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And oftentimes on Fridays with Bryan at 3 Eastern and noon Pacific. And then I've got a bunch of other shows. I do the Portland WrestleCast, talking about Don Owens, Portland territory. And then we also do the Pacific Rim on Japanese wrestling with Fumi Saito, who is Japan's leading wrestling guy. Follow me on Twitter at Jim Valley. Have a great week. My voice will get better. I'll get you all that content real soon. Thank you for everything. I'll talk to you next time. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.